Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ignite and the Ask the Expert session on meetings. My name is Shiraz Kupala. I'm the Group Product Manager for Microsoft Teams meetings. I have with me here a whole slate of experts to help answer your questions. With me, Annika Elias. She's another product manager on the team, and James Skay, also one of the moderators here. And then we have a whole host of other experts from around the world helping us with questions. Now, what to expect in this session? We have the Q&A panel on the side. Please go ahead and put your questions in there. We'll introduce the team briefly in a moment, and then we will answer a number of different questions as we promote those, and then we'll close out at the end. So when you ask the questions in the chat box, we approve them to be posted publicly, and then please do vote for your favorites so we can prioritize the ones that the most people are interested in. We will try to answer verbally as much as possible so you can get some more color around those questions, and we'll of course do our best to answer the most popular questions first. Going to the next slide, I introduced myself. Annika, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, and then James.
Yep. Hi, I'm Annika Elias, and as Shiraz said, I'm on the Teams meetings team. I also have experience from Skype for Business and Link Timeframe, so communication is my thing.
Hey there, James Skay, and Senior Product Marketing Manager for Microsoft Teams meetings. And like Annika, I actually spent the last couple of years on our Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams initiatives before jumping into our marketing initiatives for Teams meetings. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. And the last piece is just a little bit of etiquette. So we are recording the session so that other people can get the benefit of your questions and our answers. We will, there's typically a lot of questions come in, so please help us keep on top of that. And of course, the Microsoft Code of Conduct is important so we all can have a great session here. So with that, we can move forward. And I already see a number of questions coming in, so really exciting. I'll let James and Annika guide us through those questions and start to provide some answers. Thank you again for joining us. Let's dive in.
So Shiraz, transcription is the first topic. Can you share a little bit more about when the transcription that will, live transcription that will show up in the side panel will be available in O365?
Yeah. So a few things on that. So we'll be seeing that live transcript coming this fall very soon. And I'm looking at the question a little more in terms of being able to interact with it in real time. So initially, that live transcript will be something you can just view and scroll through. And we definitely have future plans to make that more interactive. So you can search for things in that transcript and do other things down the road. So it's definitely, what you see now is just the start for what we want to do with the live transcript feature.
Building on live transcript, Shiraz, the next one is, can live transcripts be enabled by default rather than per meeting?
Yes, this is a question we've heard a few times. Yeah, so right now with the transcript, once you enter into the meeting, you need to turn on the transcript or the recording and transcript. And we are looking at ways down the road to allow you to configure so that the transcript is on by default, either as a per meeting functionality, or even be able to control that as a for all meetings type of a setting by default. So that's something we're looking at down the road.
Another question is about engagement, and how do you get people in your company and in your meetings to turn on the camera? Some people never do.
That's a really great question, and you know, there's a few things that we found in our research about cameras. So oftentimes the first thing we'll do is we find that when the first person turns on their camera, more people start to turn on their camera. They see like, okay, it feels comfortable, particularly now that so many of us are working from home. You know, it can sometimes feel for some people uncomfortable, you know, based on their environment. Obviously, we have the background blur feature, which you see some of us using. Others on the call here are using the background replacement. So, you know, if I'm in my messy basement, which I happen to be right now, I found a little corner here that doesn't look too bad, so I can blur, but you can just blank all of that out. So we see more and more people feeling comfortable turning on their video because we have the background replacement or the background blur. And then we also notice too that some people will come in and out based on whether they're speaking and they want to get attention and turn their video on and then turn it back off so they can allow space for other people. One thing to keep in mind too is we have found in our research that sometimes video can be distracting for people too. So sometimes they'll turn theirs off, or they'll even turn off all the incoming video because they don't want to. They want to be able to focus on what's being said. And then the other thing that to keep in mind is there are people that turn video off. Sometimes I ask, you know, there's one person I work with a lot, and one time I just said, hey, I'm curious, you know, you never turn on your video. Why is that? And they said, well, they told me they have really poor internet, and so if they turn on their video, the audio becomes choppy. So what I like to do is if I see a certain pattern, I'll just ask someone just to be curious because I want to learn sort of what's working or not working for them. It's definitely an interesting topic. I think the other thing that we found too is the new Together mode has encouraged more people to turn on video because it really feels like we're together when we use that mode in one room. And so people get excited about turning it on and kind of participating because they can see themselves with everyone else interacting together.
Speaking of bandwidth, Shiraz, there was another question that was talking about bandwidth optimization. They'd like to hear about bandwidth, a minimum bandwidth needed for video meetings. And in our meeting in the session, you and I had actually shared kind of a preview of what Satin can do. And so, kind of like doubling down on that, Satin is a codec that Microsoft actually created. And you'll notice in the audio samples that came across that, there's an audio clip. And if you're not familiar with what 7 kilobits per second is, you should, if you do, you understand that the impact of this. Currently today, Satin is used to power our calling experience within Teams for our calling, and we're going to be bringing that over to meetings soon. So for those that have had issues with constrained bandwidth, just know that we're working to bring extra, extra tools your way, and specifically codecs to be able to help you get more out of your bandwidth than you could before. And so we're excited to bring that to you, and we'll have more information about that available later on in the coming weeks later this year.
I'll add one more piece to that also. So those codecs work on audio, and speaking of video, all of our networks around the world are really strained right now because everyone is using these online meetings. And so we understand, how does this work with low bandwidth? One of the things we do is that we dynamically adjust the resolution of the video to accommodate the network that you have available to you, both outgoing and incoming. So if I have a low bandwidth network, my video, which I happen to have actually, my outgoing video will be reduced such that it can still have an intelligible smooth session, even though the resolution may be a little bit lower for people. And similarly with incoming video, when we subscribe to the different videos, the service sends down smaller size video, based on what's actually needed. If the thumbnail is small for that video, we don't need to send a full, HD resolution. So we do that dynamically behind the scenes to try to optimize the pipeline.
Perfect. I'm going to send a question over to one of our SMEs, Vakhtang. We are thinking about moving to Teams collab and meetings coexistence mode. So this is a Skype to Teams convergence question. But a big drawback we find is that chat stays in our Skype for Business environment. We would actually only want to leave PSTN and Skype for now. Is that a coexistence scenario that might be on the horizon?
Hi, that's a very good question. And I think in a lot of cases, our customers are experimenting when they're moving from Skype environment into Team. There are very well-defined interoperability modes, as we call them, collaboration modes. You can be in a Skype for Business with Teams collaboration and meeting modes, which means your meetings will be in a team, your collaboration will be team, and you will just leave probably a bit of a chat and calling in Skype for Business. That's probably the closest mode will be. But in case if you want to bring just telephony into Teams and in Skype, I'm sorry, and everything else in Teams, while it's possibly practical, it's very probably unpractical to users because it really breaks the flow of collaboration, flow of work, where you can actually start chatting and then start calling, start connecting. So probably no, it won't be more like just a calling in a Skype and chat in a Teams. No, but that's, as I stated, Skype for Business with team collaboration and meetings. That's closest mode applicable in this case.
Perfect. Thank you on that. Bogdan, while we have you, there was another question around, can you say a little bit about Microsoft Teams platform and the Microsoft Teams for Education app platform? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the education side, but Bogdan, I know you're good on the API side.
Yeah, I think when we're looking at Teams, if we just elevate our view to the very, very high level, we look at Teams has for us really just kind of the three core pillars, which is your communication and collaboration capability, where the chatting, meetings, and all capability come. We have got our information management, where the whole collaboration and all the information management, and then its extensibility platform come into play. The extensibility platform allows us to connect to external applications, which bring their experience into Teams. That's where the team platform is. And also actually, as we call it, take a Teams icon and put inside their applications. So we want you to actually start using Teams as think of it, meta operating system for your applications. Bring application experience into Teams, build your application into Teams, and think of Teams as more canvas for your applications. And whether you are education space, whether you are enterprise space, whether you're SMB space, it really doesn't that matter when it is an education customer or no. We treat education a little bit differently from the templates perspective, but from extensibility in the platform's perspective, it is actually one play. Bring experience of applications into Teams, and that's what we want actually you to do.
Next question for Shiraz will be for meeting options. So the meeting options that were presented in the session, the option of only me can bypass the lobby and allow attendees to unmute. Can this be administrated from the Teams admin portal as a global policy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things we strive to do across all of Teams meetings and these options is to allow the admin to control those options, to require it either at the tenant level or at the user level, so that if you in your organization want to enforce that kind of restriction, you'll be able to do that. So that's an important point for us, is to make sure that the administrator has control over how their organization, how meetings work within their organization. We find, for example, in schools, for example, it's something that people definitely like to do, is to control that so that the teacher remains in control of the meeting. I'm going to take another question too. I just saw great question from Stephanie about the announcement on breakout rooms coming soon, and then what else might be coming in terms of better mimicking an office environment while working remotely. And this is something we talk a lot about in Teams meetings. You know, the way we think about it is, you know, we're all used to, as people, as human beings, right? We interoperate with each other in a physical space. We work at home or at work, conference rooms, classrooms. And for us, when we think about the online meeting, how can we both reflect that in the meeting so that it feels natural, but then extend it? So as an example, one of the things that is in almost every conference room and classroom is a whiteboard. And in fact, if there isn't a whiteboard, people will bring in a large flip chart so they can draw with a magic marker, right? And so one of the things we're doing with Teams meetings, it was we're making whiteboard core to that experience, and we'll be expanding it more and more over time so that it feels natural to just, do what you do in a conference room or a classroom. Walk up to the whiteboard and start drawing when you need to illustrate something for people in the meeting. But now with that ability to have people remote, what you can do now is have people even, at long distances away from each other also contribute on that whiteboard. And over time, our goal is to actually make that interoperate so that people in the room and outside the room can all participate together. So with devices like, Microsoft's the Surface Hub, right? People can be whiteboarding in a room when we're able to be back together, obviously in a safe way with the people that are remote as well.
Perfect. One other question that I just saw was about Together mode, if it's available or already globally rolled out. And Chris replied back with the roadmap. I want to just preface that a lot of the great things that you saw today in the product from the demo are available today, but they're available in our new meeting experience. And so if you're familiar with your Teams settings, by clicking up on your icon in the upper right of your main Teams window, by clicking on that and going down to settings, on the general tab, there should be a box that says enable new meeting experience. And so right now, we're in the process of rolling out that as a default for our users. But currently today, if you don't have the new meeting experience and you're a commercial or education or GCC customer, you can actually go in there today and turn it on. And when you turn that on, you're going to have what we call the new meeting experience, which is inclusive of our large gallery view, which is like up to 7x7 video participants. You also have Together mode in there. So if you don't have that today, take a look at your team settings to enable it, just as the FYI. And then a lot of the new innovation that Shiraz has mentioned will be coming to that new meeting experience. So if you don't have it, you're going to need it as we move forward. And probably over the coming weeks, everybody will have the new meeting experience as default, as I just mentioned. There was one other question around breakout rooms. There's a separate section, or a separate session this week at Ignite. It is, you can find it at aka.ms/PR109. I'll put it in the window. Breakout rooms we announced earlier this year. They're coming to Teams meetings, and they're going to be available beginning next month. So we first announced early Q4, and we're pleased to announce that we're going to be delivering them in October. So that PR104 session will have introduction to breakout rooms. It'll have a demo, but it'll also show you what will be coming to breakout rooms later on this year after we've launched. And Annika, I'll throw it back to you for a question.
Yes, I have one question that I can take an answer actually on myself. The Meet Now button is something that you see in channels. That's a way of scheduling channel meetings. The question is, how can I stop participants in this channel from doing it if it's a very busy channel with a lot of people? And the answer to that is that you can go to the admin portal and actually disable channel meetings for a specific team. And a follow-up question to the SMEs would be, when can I schedule channel meetings in private channels? That's something I do not know.
Currently, I can jump in on that one. Currently, you can't actually do scheduling in private channels today. There is a user voice on Teams with a lot of votes to be able to have this functionality, but there is an actual way around it. What you would do in the private channel is go and start a Meet Now and then send the meeting details. So you would join the Meet Now experience, grab the meeting details, and then you can schedule them in on a new Teams meeting or to either Teams or Outlook. So that's actually a workaround in which you can actually do that today. But the native scheduling in the private channel, I would redirect to on the user voice site.
Thank you, Chris. Another question specifically related to Together mode. can Together Mode be activated by the presenter, or does each participant need to select it? I could take this one. There's two aspects here. So currently today, Together Mode is a individual participant toggle. Just like today in the new meeting experience, you could toggle between gallery, large gallery if you have more than 6 or 7 people in your meeting, and then Together Mode. Some people can be in large gallery and some can be in Together Mode based on their preference. We've made some announcements related to Together Mode at Ignite this year, and I want to just mention those. The first one is going to be a toggle where a meeting presenter can automatically not just turn on Together Mode for everybody, but they can also define the scene. And so you'll think about today we have a typical standard Together Mode background, or what we call a scene. Those we're announcing, or we've announced we're going to have, I think, up to 5 or 6 more available by the end of this calendar year. Not just for large groups, but some of them will be designed for 4, 5, or 6 people. And so not only would a meeting organizer or presenter choose which scene to turn on, but they can turn it on by default. And then another nuance that many of you that use Together Mode might appreciate is using the power of AI, which is the hero behind Together Mode, and this immersive experience is that we're also using machine learning and AI to actually resize individual people in the seats. So you'll notice, depending upon how close or far you are from the camera, you might appear larger or smaller than the person that's sitting next to you. So no longer will people have to adjust their location to their camera, but instead Together Mode will be able to take care of that all for you. And again, that enhancement is coming to Together Mode later this calendar year. Great question. Let's just see here. Annika, do you have anything queued up?
Yes, I have a question about breakout rooms, whether or not they will be only for internal participants, or if external and anonymous people who are also joining the meeting can participate in the breakout rooms.
So, any more SMEs want to take that?
Yeah, I can take it.
Bachman, go ahead.
Yeah, so think of breakout room as just another Teams meeting inside a meeting. So when you are in a meeting, and then you may have very, very different audience in the meeting, could be internal people, could be federated people, could be external anonymous users in your meeting. And then you create a breakout rooms and you break them, you move them into those rooms, which means the people who are in the meeting, they will move into those breakout rooms. So as long as they are in the meeting, they can move into breakout room. And remember, breakout room is just another Teams meeting, and all the Teams capabilities that you will have in a Teams meeting will be available over there, which means you might have your anonymous participants could be there, which means you can collaborate, you can have all these great meeting features in that. So in short answer, yes.
Perfect. One question that just came through, would it be possible to have a Meet Now button on the desktop or within almost any Office 365 application? People often give me feedback that they need to know where to go to start a meeting. Currently today, we see that functionality in Teams under the calendar view. I can tell you that Meet Now is coming to Outlook calendar very soon. And so not only will you be able to start a meeting impromptu from Teams meetings, but you'll also be able to do it from Outlook. We are also exploring other ways in which you can spin up a meeting very quickly. And we'll have additional information on that in the coming weeks.
I have
okay.
another question for Shiraz. Are there any plans for document collaboration over Teams? Oh, over Teams meetings, I should specify.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy to take that. Let me see here. So document collaboration. So there's a number of different ways we think about that. So first off, when we think about collaboration, there's obviously you can share content, you can share your screen, but what people are really starting to do more and more is actually co-author together in a meeting. And we actually have this, one of the goals we have to make meetings more effective is to make, help help people actually get work done during the meeting. And oftentimes that means co-authoring together on some sort of piece of content. So when you think about that within the meeting, there's a couple of ways to do that. So the first way is, everyone can dive into that document together. Someone may be sharing that document, but you can, but that's a passive situation. So oftentimes what we recommend people do is you can share a link in the chat, and then everyone can go open that document and start collaborating on it in real time. Office, all of the Office documents today allow you to co-author in real time. You can see where people are. You can even click their avatar and jump to where they are in the document, so you can follow along very easily. So that's the first piece. And then because all those documents are contained within the meeting, within the collaboration, you can do that collaboration during the meeting. But oftentimes you're not done yet. That document still lives on in your chats, in your channels, and in the files within Teams, so you can continue the collaboration outside the meeting as well.
Perfect. Another question regarding breakout rooms. Is it possible to have take control be available in breakout rooms? There's also another one related to breakout rooms regarding, I think we've already answered that one, sorry. So think about, as someone mentioned earlier, a Teams meeting is essentially what's powering breakout rooms. So you're part of a large meeting, you get pushed into a breakout room. Again, it's another subset of a Teams meeting. The only difference, or one of the biggest differences in a Teams breakout meeting, is that in a main meeting room, there could be one organizer, and then there could be 15 attendees, one presenter, 15 attendees. Those 15 attendees, when they're broken out into a breakout room, automatically become a presenter within the breakout room. So any person can choose to share their desktop, they can choose to share a PowerPoint, or even a whiteboard, as long as the settings have been set at the appropriate tenant level. Now, because it's a regular Teams meeting, someone can actually choose to request control over another person's screen, and just like in a regular meeting, that person would get a prompt and have to accept it. The one thing that I did want to call out, because I did mention it is a Teams meeting, breakout rooms will have two distinctions. Everyone will be a presenter by default. And then the second one is there will not be meeting details available within the breakout room. Specifically, we don't want to give meeting join coordinates to somebody to be able to invite another individual into a breakout room. All that would need to go through the main meeting, which would then need to be assigned to the respective breakout room. And then speaking of that, there's another question from John. What are the odds that my IT department at my high school have turned off functionality to protect students, but maybe hampering collaboration against teachers? It's a great one to call out, specifically in the security area where we are today. Are any of the SMEs on the call well versed in the policies that we've actually enabled our education tenants to be able to configure? If not, I'm happy to speak to what I know, but if there's an expert, I'll defer to you.
I can share a little bit on this, which is, yes, I mean, there are certain capabilities in Teams meetings, that would reduce the ability to collaborate. Like, for example, sometimes people may want the ability to turn off the chatting or some other types of functionality. How people are able to interact with other content. And that's really kind of per school, how they want to configure the meeting to keep the teacher kind of on top of the classroom. So it's certainly possible that they might do that.
The one thing that I add to that is for education tenants, there's some policies that we've created where, imagine today in a corporate setting, you would typically give all of your employees the ability to create meetings. In an education environment, there's a separate setting where teachers are given the right to create meetings, and students by default can't, because typically teachers are the ones that actually create the meetings and have the join coordinates. So based on the ability, if you can create a meeting or not, that kind of defines if you're a student or a teacher as it relates to the meeting space. So that actually facilitates certain things like, okay, if I cannot create a meeting, then I can't join a meeting that's scheduled in an education institution unless a teacher is present or somebody that has the rights to be able to create a meeting. So there are certain nuances that are there. And so, John, if you're concerned that your IT admins might be limiting your functionality, I encourage you guys to reach out to your Microsoft account team if you have one, to better understand the security and controls that your organization can provide to keep your students in the classroom safe, while at the same time allowing you and your colleagues to collaborate in ways in which makes Teams one of the best productivity solutions available today. And with that, Annika, I don't know if you have anything queued up, but I think we might have time for one more question. Actually, it looks like it's time to wrap.
Yeah, so here's what I'll do. I'll answer one question I think came up. There's a question on NDI, which is Network Device Interface, the ability to broadcast the video from the meeting out for professional tools to be able to do further processing and production on. And that will be coming available on the Mac as well later this year. So I think that was one of the questions people were curious about. And that's the feature that actually powered the NBA, the view of audience view in the NBA and some of those other together mode views that you've seen on large sporting events here in this particular case in the US. I want to thank everyone for joining us and for being part of Teams and hearing all the great things that we have to share this time at Ignite. There are many other sessions, as we've mentioned. I encourage you to see them in a lot more detail on things like breakout rooms and language intelligence, large events and webinars. So please enjoy Ignite. Thank you again. Thank you to all of our subject matter experts here joining us. Have a great day.